You can do it with video. The language learning benefits of student-made videos. So there are a couple of reasons why you are here listening tonight. Hopefully you'll develop a repertoire of strategies for recording, editing, and sharing student videos, but also implementing real-life tasks that students can record in second language classes. So we're talking authenticity here. So let's talk a little bit about videos and why it's important to get students producing videos in our classes. So my name is Jim Murphy. I'm a language educator. I taught online for a long time. I'm a bit of a techno addict. And I'm also director right now of language services with the Association for New Canadians in Newfoundland and Labrador. If any of you would like to get in touch with me, my email is here. I encourage you to reach out if you would like, if you have any questions. So let's have a quick look. Student-made videos. It's always great to start with the research, so I'm going to share a little bit of research with you with regards to the use of video in classrooms, and not, of course, just the use of video, but in the creation of products. So when we have students create products, we see something happen with their language learning experience. What we see is they gain a deeper understanding of the target culture and their own cultures. Further to that, the classroom does ask us to promote collaboration, and when we do this through tasks, we see more evidence of authentic interaction, and of course that's motivational, and interestingly enough, it also reduces anxiety. And we know that anxiety and stress in our classrooms, is definitely an issue in this day and age, especially as we have been working through a pandemic and finding new ways to engage our learners. Don't forget that language learners tend to perform better when they know they have an audience of peers. So they tend to take more time to rehearse and to ensure that the product that they have created is as good as it can be. So keep that in mind. And of course, I don't know about your communities, but opportunities for them to speak outside of the classroom are very limited. So there's no second language in the home. So that definitely limits it. And even if there is a second language in the home, it's still difficult. I have children here in the home who will not speak their second language with me as an example. They just don't do it. As much as you try to force it, they just don't do it. So a couple of other little pieces about increasing active learning engagement, autonomous learning, independent learning, authentic use of target language, cognitive intelligence and learning, and of course the last part, which is really the engagement piece. So we see more engaged learners. So you want to keep that in mind as you're planning to implement some video-based learning in your classrooms through student video production. For those of you who were joined us in the live session, we did provide a Jamboard link, which you can certainly click on to follow up. We asked teachers some questions. What kinds of videos do you watch online? What kind of videos do your students watch online? What kinds of videos do you record on your phone? What about your kids? I mean, these days, we know that these devices are everywhere, so we need to look at them and we need to figure out how we can harness them for the classroom. Some of the responses that were returned: observations, jokes, responding to questions, reviews, unboxing, selfie cam jams, so, selfies and self videos, guided tours, cooking videos, lip sync, gaming walkthroughs, and of course, to me, the most important one is ask your students, how are they able to use videos? So just a couple of pointers then on videos in your classroom for engaging language production. So there's basically two streams that you can follow. You can look at short videos as a means of getting more immediate feedback from students, minimal preparation, natural and authentic, more natural and authentic language. You can ask or answer a question, for example, have them react to something, have them give you a little weather forecast, have them tell you about last night, all of these things that we like to use in our classrooms for, for routine. Or we get into the longer videos, and this may be more along the lines of assessment practices. So we may be getting a little bit more formal on this side and maybe a little more informal on this side. But what's great about the shorter side is that it's actually very formative, isn't it? We can really find out if they're able to use the target language. So it can tell us a lot about the learners. Longer videos, however, can be very advantageous as well. Time to prepare and revise, polishing their speech, their pronunciation. It can be engaging, for example, guided tours, music videos, even book reads with, their own books maybe. Anything of that nature. It might take a little longer, but we could also be using it for assessment as we develop criteria to accompany the tasks. So we need to keep all of those things in mind as we're thinking about how we can enhance our classrooms through student video use. How can we extend the language? So many have asked, okay, so that's great. Students just spent a week producing a video. What's next? Well, I mean, we can include writing tasks with it. There's nothing that's, stopping us from doing that. And writing tasks, critiques, reviews, showing students how to reflect on somebody else's video, for example, and provide a critique, a positive review, and of course the vocabulary that would accompany that. Find ways for students to interact with each other, small group or class discussions, oral interactions, so we can have let's watch the video and let's talk, commenting on the videos, written commentary on the videos, and learning how to interact in a positive way, because we know that social media certainly has created a few issues out there for us, and so we need to be cognizant of how we can better use social media to help students to become more engaged and more positive with regards to how they look at each other's work and how they critique it. So a couple of other things to bring to your attention. On the CASALT website, you can find a one-pager on student-made videos. I am going to walk you through this, and I'll divide it in two bits. First of all, how can students record and edit videos? And then where can they share them or store them? And the response is very simple. I mean, every device we have now has some sort of video capacity or capability, so that's kind of an easy one. But Chromebooks, for example, in your classroom, if you're lucky enough to have a set with the Screencastify extension, works quite well, and this will record and go directly into your Google Drive and be saved. What I often do is when students are using Screencastify is I get them to share their Screencastify folder with me so I can immediately go and see what they're doing and how they're making out, and I can review and give them suggestions. Editing, lots of free editing apps out there, iMovie, WeVideo. You can also buy a purchased version of Screencastify, but it's still a little bit limited in terms of its editing capabilities. But I think the best tip is probably, let's let the students decide what technologies they want to use to record and edit, because they're probably already doing it, and we don't even realize that they're doing it. So where are we going to share? For those of you who have access to Google tools, strongly recommend, but in some of our webinars, people have also talked about Microsoft tools, which is just fine. OneDrive, shared storage spaces, shared spaces in learning management systems, YouTube, I mean, whatever works for you in your current situation, but I can assure you, your district probably has something or someplace where you can safely store videos. Make sure you have permission. Make sure you understand the ins and outs of the Privacy and Protection Acts that are within your school district. But I would recommend Flipgrid. It responds to prompts with video. You can embellish videos with text and emojis. You can create a group, and then you can just give them a join code so they don't have to create any sort of account. And you can also import it through a Google Classroom. It's very similar to TikTok or Instagram or InstaFeed and all of these other ones that are out there that students are kind of hooked on and are using or watching quite frequently. So in terms of Flipgrid, there is a link here if you'd like to follow it and look at some samples. of some of the teachers who participated in the webinars and what they had to say. You can share your own message of positivity if you'd like. But it's just an opportunity to do a little bit of practice if you have never seen this tool before. So I invite you to do that. If you haven't used Flipgrid before, then I certainly invite you to have a look at the website. You can Google this. There's lots of places out there that you can Google for activities with Flipgrid. Here's a simple suggestion: a question and response, a daily question, having them do things like reading the news. They can create their own weather forecasts, for example, or they can respond to a prompt or a task or a longer task. And as an example, something that we recently did in our ESL Learning Center was getting them to do a speaking activity and ask about an apartment. So is there, are there, does it have, is it close to? And the students really responded well to this. And as you can see, lots of other students looked as well to see what was happening. There were 11 responses, and there were about 1.6 hours of language engagement or recordings. The teacher Kirsten here, provided her own model of the language, of the kind of response, and then the students then took their turns and were able to provide responses. What was really nice about it as well is that then we were able to establish a criteria for assessment purposes, and we can see a very simple rubric or a simple criteria grids in which we can focus then what it is we're looking for from students when they respond. And I have to tell you, I watched all of the videos, and it was amazing to listen to how much they practice. You could hear the practice in their speaking, in their diction, as they really pronunciated well. So very interesting how Flipgrid was used. So let's just quickly then talk about the CASALT Languages Build video contest, and all of the information is available on the CASALT website. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, this video contest has been happening for a couple of years now. And the question that's asked is, how has learning a second or additional language impacted your own life? So this is the question that you need to ask students to respond to. There are various categories for the video contest, including primary, elementary, intermediate, secondary, post-secondary, and even small group, and or you can do it as a class, or you can do both. You can have individual entries or class submissions from different age categories, as can be seen. There's lots more detail on the CASALT website on this. The deadline is the 11th of March, and it is open to all residents of Canada, and some interesting prizes. So maybe win a few dollars for your class, or maybe students win a few dollars and they get to have their video then featured on the CASALT website. So let's keep that in mind. Also, if you visit the contest website, you'll notice that there are prompts there, questions to get you started. There's some advocacy videos there from the Language Build video series. And of course, there are previous winning videos. This might be a great starting point for students to see some of the wonderful videos that students created. There's a classroom toolkit, and of course that even contains consent and submission forms. So just before I finish, I just wanted to quickly talk to you as well about teacher-made videos. I mean, if we're asking students to create videos, then we need to consider, are we using videos, and how can we use video more effectively in our classroom? And what I mean is teacher-created video. So I'm just going to bring you through a couple of slides there. Have you ever used a video to give a lesson or provide information to students? I want you to reflect on that a little bit and think about it. So where are you? Are you here way back in the caboose? Are you way back here? Or hopefully you're way up here in the front of the train, and you're heading on down the track like a rocket. So if not, then hopefully there are opportunities for you here to learn a few things. So Why use video? Well, in our live session, we actually jotted down a few answers, but I want you to think about it. Why use video to deliver instruction, and what are the advantages of this approach? So you can stop the video if you'd like and reflect a little, or we'll just keep things moving, and I'll provide you with some feedback. So students say this. Students say that video-based language learning, they say yes, because using an explanatory video that has a picture helps to understand the meaning of the video. So it's not just about the video itself, it's the background, it's the media that you're using, and what we call the mode, okay, the various backgrounds and graphics and engaging bits that we can include. Another one said, yes, I do, because video can make us become enthusiastic. So the engaging bit, and do you think Edpuzzle? So this is another way, another tool that we can use to take video and add annotations, questions, and so on. So yes, I do, because the video, we also find notes and questions in every part. And remember our earlier research on language retention, when it talked about building in notes and building in interactive bits helps to improve retention. And of course, last person said yes, because the video is more current and easy. Okay, and so we move on, and I'll bring you back to your days of studying pedagogy and psychology. So effective educational videos, there are two things to consider, the cognitive load and active learning, and then of course the engagement in the affective or our emotional domain and how we're connecting to it. Because when we connect to things, we know it helps with retention as well. But basically what they're telling us is that there are actually two channels that we need to remember, and it makes sense when we think about it. I mean, our entire lives are really in two channels for the most part, unless we have some auditory or visual issues. You know, that's basically summarizes and sums up television as well, which we know our societies you know, spend a lot of time in front of, and now of course it's just moved to different mediums such as the web. So when we think of it, we have a verbal auditory channel and a visual pictorial channel, and this helps things to move from our sensory memory to our working memory through to our long-term memory, where we hope to retain them. So what does that look like from a language retention per se? Well, you know, some of the things that they do recommend with regards to cognitive load is conversational style in your videos, speaking at comfortable rates, nothing too slow, but comfortable rates. And I think what we really need to focus on here is that the teacher voice is so important, especially for lower language learners. They may not be able to handle two authentic speakers, for example, speaking. Make sure the material feels like it's for your students and not just something you downloaded and, you know, because you thought it looked good. And we see that a lot of times in, you know, worksheets and whatnot, like Learning Chocolate, where the quality can be a bit, you know, questionable. Matching the modality with the purpose. So I just mentioned that earlier about, you know, the mode or the modalities that we're using. So for example, illustrations, charts, you know, background information, annotations, and of course, enhance and engage. But think about the modalities at your disposal as well as you're planning for this. So a couple more things that they say is make the experience active. For example, using Edpuzzle to provide guiding questions, but you can even use a Google form to post your video, and under the video you can have questions about the video to make sure that the students were engaged and understanding. But labeling and annotating as well, you can do this using Google Slides, for example, and then just simply capture yourself moving things about on your Google Slides, similar to what I'm doing with this presentation, where I'm actively controlling where your eyes lie by drawing your eye to certain graphics or words or what have you. So we want to provide opportunities for students to be able to input as much as they can, so the interactive features help with that. Integrate questions into the video. So I mentioned Forms, Google Classroom, also Peer Deck, which is a great tool for asynchronous or synchronous engagement. It's not video, but a really good opportunity for them to interact with learning content. If you're not using it, you might want to look into it. So to enhance student engagement, keep it short, keep it conversational, find a comfortable pace. Students need to feel like they're connected to the material, support it with the right modalities, and don't forget, in early language learning, as I mentioned, we need a supportive, like a teacher voice, a supportive voice. And we see that even in some of the CLB, for example, which is the common language benchmarks for Canadian ESL and FSL learners, immigrants and refugees in particular. So we see that even there, they mentioned about digital media and highly supportive speakers. So let's keep that in mind as we think about developing video for our students. So what do you think are some of these steps to produce a quality instructional video? Well, here's a couple suggested by the research. Number one, you want to chunk that instruction. You don't want it to be too long. This video is definitely too long for student instruction. You want to keep it shorter. Let's look at what happens as video gets longer and longer. What happens? The engagement falls off fairly rapidly. So let's keep that in mind. Build video-ready slides. So what is meant by that is, like, if you're going to use a slideshow, make sure it's very visually appealing, not too much on-screen text like you're seeing from me here tonight or today. And of course, I use PowerPoint, and you can use slides as my planning stage for my instruction as well. So all of my planning I kind of capture in a slideshow, so I know every single page, I have it storyboarded out, I know what I'm going to do, and it just helps me to plan my instruction for the entire month so that I make sure that I don't miss anything leading up, of course, to that final learning task, however you decide to chunk up your instruction. So it's great to use PowerPoint or Google Slides for this. Phase 3, of course, you're going to record. Lots of free tools out there, lots of tools that you can purchase as well. I leave this to your discretion. Get a tool, figure out how to use it, and stick with it. If after a time you kind of grow out of it, then you upgrade, you move up to something else. But that's basically how it works. Find something easy to use that works for you. Start with that. And of course, I already mentioned as well that the students, have it figured out. So you need to figure out as well how you can use this as a tool, a simple capture tool as well. Just a couple of more bits. Edpuzzle I already mentioned. So this is a great example of getting students involved with more interactive video quizzes, notes, voiceovers, etc., etc. And you can assign them through Google Classroom. And there's a sample assignment here if you'd like to check it out. The fourth idea, enhancing the engagement. This is Edpuzzle, my friends. Okay, so indicating that when students take notes or answer guided questions while watching, they retain material. So I've already mentioned this a number of times. I've already mentioned Peer Deck to you as well. And so number 5, be yourself. Okay, so the most important element of a strong teacher-made video is authenticity. Authenticity. So let's just quickly go back. Number 1, chunking your instruction. Number 2, building video-ready slides or having good backgrounds ready to go that are going to enhance the learning experience. Recording, enhancing the engagement, and then, of course, being yourself. So in summary, keep videos brief and targeted on learning goals. Use, audio and visual elements to convey, signaling, highlighting. Don't forget to use these things to help with any important concepts or ideas. Use a conversational or enthusiastic style. Embed videos in a context of active learning, and so forth. And just before we finish out, here are some ways that I have used video, and I still use video for instructional purposes. I use it for homework review as an example. So you can see the explanations here. I use it to give a weekly overview to students. I use it to provide all of the speaking models for any speaking tasks they're going to hear my voice and they're going to hear me doing the task, okay? Or I bring in a partner and we do the task together. So again, more opportunities for them to listen to this and practice with it. For explaining activities, for any of the daily routines. So instead of having them come in and you do a daily routine, well, why don't you record it and then they watch it when they come to your class, and then you can ask them questions about it. So again, engaging them with the learning content. Identifying common errors in any kinds of assignments. So whether it's grammatical errors or strategies for improving their writing or whatever the case may be. Directions for any activity, any of the tasks that they have coming up. You can capture all of that with video, and of course how-tos for technology learning. Thanks everyone for sitting through, and I hope you managed to glean a few pieces of information from this short presentation. But you really need to try this stuff out. If you're not comfortable, your students will be. If you are not prepared to try the teacher side, well, I would say give the student side a whirl and see how it goes. Good luck to you all, and talk to you soon.